Hi YouTube, Jess here. Today I wanted to post a video about something that people have been asking me about, something that I really wanted to show people that it's possible to do and really easy, and you don't need any special tools to do it. It's how I got all of my hybrids to fit on their bodies and match their bodies, and all you need is a paintbrush and some paint. It doesn't take an airbrush, although airbrushes are nice. They definitely give a smoother result. I think that the results with just a plain paintbrush are really good too. And it's really easy. You can basically make any head match any body you want. So no longer are you required to kind of do very in-depth resin matching comparisons and say, oh well, I can't put her on that body because it won't match the color. And I mean, it is nice to have a resin match already there, but it's really, really easy to paint a head to match a body. I've done it with a lot of my dolls. I've done it with dyed dolls like this one. If you don't want to dye your faceplate or head, because dyeing can sometimes give splotchy results and you're never quite sure. It's kind of, you don't know if it's going to turn out okay. Well, now you can just dye the body, which is kind of easily covered, and paint the head and not risk it. So I've done this on a lot of my dolls. I've done it on a lot of my faceplates to match other bodies or to give it a resin color that it didn't originally have, right? This girl was originally fairy skin. It's very, very white, and I just painted her a different color, you can choose any color you want to. It's really up to you. So here's just a quick video showing my method, and I think it gives pretty great results. So check it out. Before you do any painting, the first step is to seal the head with MSC or whatever sealant you choose. This is going to help the paint to stick so it doesn't just scratch right off. The paint that I use is Liquitex Soft Body Acrylic Paint. It's important to try to avoid heavy body acrylics because it's just going to take longer to get them smoothed out. And I smooth it out with Flow Aid additive. That's from Liquitex, or I have this Jo Sonia's brand, Flow Medium. Basically anything that will help thin out the paint. And I usually use that in combination with a little bit of water. So just mix your paints, try to get the color as close as possible, but remember that the paint's going to dry darker than it looks when it's still wet. But you don't need to be perfect. I usually remix the paint every time I have to do a new layer just because the paint dries out on me. So you have a chance to kind of adjust the color. So you want to add the flow mediums to the paint till you get a liquidy, creamy consistency. You don't want it to be too thin, you don't want it to be watery, but you definitely want it to be liquidy. And just apply that in a thin layer, as smooth as you can get it. The first layer is not going to look very smooth, but just get it as smooth as you can get it. Try to avoid patchiness, and most importantly, you want to try to wipe up any pools of paint that you see with the brush. Just kind of move the paint around with your wet brush so that it's all smooth. And then you want to let it dry. Always make sure the paint completely dries before you start the next layer, or you might run into problems. And just do the same thing. Apply the paint in thin, smooth layers, as smooth as you can get it. you know, the paint's not going to dry instantly, so you have time to kind of move it around so that it gets as smooth as possible. And that's just the name of the game, is to keep it as smooth as possible. Try to avoid any brush strokes. You want to choose a brush that will let you get that smooth consistency. I use a flat brush, but whatever brush works for you. And here you can see there's a little bit of a patch that came up when I painted because that little bit wasn't completely dry, so it turns a little bit lighter. The paint kind of wipes off, so just make sure everything's dry, or else the new layer of paint might wipe off layers underneath it. And here is my fourth and final layer. I just wanted to get one more layer on there. And it's applied just the same as all the other ones. Get your paint to a very thin, smooth consistency and paint it on as smoothly as possible. And here's the finished Lucis plate. She used 4 layers of paint, applied it by brush, and you can see the color's pretty good. And you can also see it gives her skin a little bit of a texture with the paint, but again, I kind of like that. And just put some sealant on top of that and you're ready for a face up. And here's just another example of another face I painted. I was trying to match that bit of resin. You can see the consistency that I like to get with the paint. It's liquidy but not watery. It's kind of hard to explain, but the more you do it, the more you'll see what works and what doesn't. You want to get it liquid enough so it doesn't hold a brush stroke, which is why you want to avoid those heavy body acrylics, because that's what they're made to do, is hold the brush stroke. But you don't want it too watery so that it has obvious pools and inconsistencies in the color. I just wanted to do some close-ups of the different heads that I've painted this way. So here's Viola in all of, oh, come on, focus for me. Okay. In all of the photo shoots and stuff that I did for Viola's pre-order, you know, I didn't have any special dyes or colors or whatever they are to pigments to put in the resin. So all of the resin for the Viola faceplates that I casted was this stark white. So all of the different colors that of Viola faceplates that you saw in the videos, they were all painted on with just a paintbrush. And I think the result is pretty good. You know, if you are careful about it, you can get it to be pretty smooth. And especially on this faceplate, there's really no texture. You know, other times you get a little bit of a painted on look. Like this is one of my faceplates. That in certain areas you can still kind of see a little bit of a texture from the paintbrush, but honestly, I don't mind it, and I think it kind of gives them, the little bit of added texture to their face almost gives it a little bit more skin-like quality. Here's the, chibi. Again, she's fairy skin, It's very white resin, but you don't have to be stuck with that. I painted her to match Fairyland tan, and I think the match is pretty good. And again, it gives the skin a little bit of a texture to it, but I honestly don't mind that. Again, I think that it makes it a little bit more skin-like. And sometimes you might get some brush strokes. Like, I know this faceplate here that I did has a little bit of a brush stroke. Yeah, like right here you can see is where a little bit of the paint was a bit more kind of came up on the side of the brush a bit, and I didn't smooth it out. So you can see there's quite a bit of a brush stroke texture here. But then, you know, here on the other side it looks just fine. So it just really comes down to being patient and careful with it. Make sure that you smooth out these uneven patches while the paint's still wet. While you're brushing it on, just make sure everything's smooth and you don't have these big pools of paint. I must have been rushing it a bit for the video, I think, with this faceplate, but as long as you're relatively careful with it, I think that it gives pretty great results. And you know, I'm still happy with her like this, and if it turns out that that starts annoying me, I can always go back, wipe the face up, and try again. It's completely removable. It shouldn't stain because it has that sealant underneath it. So it's really a completely removable, safe procedure to get your doll a different color. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing it for body parts because of the jointing, and all the friction from the joints would probably rub the paint off, but for heads and faces that don't get rubbed constantly, it's pretty good. It stays on there. If you scratch it very hard, it will come off, but it is pretty resilient. You know, I'm not afraid to handle it. I'm not afraid to put wigs on or anything like that. So, I mean, it's about the same as a regular face-up in terms of durability. So you can see she is also fairy skin. For some reason, I got my hands on a lot of fairy skin dolls, but, you know, it doesn't matter because you can paint it whatever color you want. And there you have it. I hope that you found this helpful, and I hope you guys try it out. I hope you find it easy to do, and hopefully we'll get some really cool colored dolls out there. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to check out some of my other videos, feel free to do that, or subscribe to my channel. If you like the video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up or a comment. I always love hearing from you guys. Thanks so much. I'll see you next time. Bye.